On the first full day of her campaign, U.S. President Kamala Harris has become the Democratic Party's presumptive nominee to replace President Joe Biden. That's after she received pledges from enough delegates to win the Democratic nomination. As she took over his campaign headquarters in Delaware, Harris got more than just an endorsement from the president.
In her first speech to campaign workers since Joe Biden abruptly ended his election campaign, the vice president seemed energetic. She praised the president, who was calling in on speakerphone from COVID isolation.
We love Joe and Jill. We really do. They truly are like family to us. And we do, everybody here does.
It's mutual.
I knew you were still there. You're not going anywhere, Joe.
I'm watching you, kid. I'm watching you, kid. I love you.
I love you, Joe.
After the emotional passing of the torch, Harris went after her Republican opponent. Leaning into her background as a public prosecutor, she said she'd taken on perpetrators of all kinds.
Predators who abused women. Fraudsters who ripped off consumers. Cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
It was only a day earlier that President Biden abandoned his bid for re-election, quickly giving his endorsement to Harris. Since then, the number of prominent Democratic endorsements for the vice president has been growing longer by the hour. The list includes former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Bill and Hillary Clinton, and a widely anticipated rival for the nomination, California Governor Gavin Newsom. He was also among names floated as potential running mates, including Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Both states are critical to winning electoral votes in November. It's looking increasingly certain that Harris will be the Democratic candidate for November's elections. But that's just the first hurdle.
So in the next 106 days, we have work to do. We have doors to knock on. We have people to talk to. We have phone calls to make. And we have an election to win.
The vice president has a long to-do list. That includes choosing a running mate and building a campaign effective enough to defeat Donald Trump.
For more, we're now joined by Charles Kupchan, a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations. So Biden's decision to step down was widely praised by many international leaders, but with conflicts raging in Ukraine and Gaza, doesn't it further complicate America's international security situation?
Well, I think that many allies around the world, in Europe, the Ukrainians themselves, thought very highly of Biden, and they're sad to see him go. That having been said, I think it became apparent over the last couple of weeks since Biden's performance in the debate that the gap between Biden and Trump was growing by the day, not just in the swing states, but in states that used to be relatively safe Democratic states. As a consequence, many leaders abroad, many Democrats here in the United States felt that Biden had no choice to step down because he needed to clear the way for a new Democratic ticket, better placed to defeat Trump. What Europeans are really worried about, what Ukrainians are really worried about, is that Trump will come, he will again strain the transatlantic alliance. As a consequence, they want to see the best Democratic ticket forward possible take on Donald Trump.
Let's stay with the Democratic ticket there, or a possible one anyway. Biden has, in the last 3 years, been a staunch supporter of Ukraine and a key ally in Israel's war against Hamas. Would you expect Harris to continue the same policies if she were to be elected?
Broadly speaking, yes. I don't think there's a lot of ideological daylight between Vice President Harris and President Biden. That having been said, I do think that whoever wins the November election, we will probably see a new approach to Ukraine. And that's because it looks like a stalemate is emerging. It looks like if that stalemate settles in, there'll be an opportunity to try to move toward a ceasefire and a diplomatic effort. I see that coming either from the Democrats or from the Republicans. But one thing that the Democrats have been very good about is forging consensus, working with allies, not doing things over the heads of Ukrainians. That's not what we're hearing from Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. They appear ready to throw Ukraine under the bus.
Well, staying on that point, if I may, for a second, Harris has painted her campaign as a choice between stability on her side and chaos if Donald Trump is reelected. Do America's international partners view the campaign in the same terms?
I think broadly speaking, yes. I mean, the 4 Trump years that I lived through here in Washington and that Europeans lived through abroad were very unsettling. They were very difficult. President Trump is an unpredictable person. Nobody knows what Trump 2.0 would look like, but it may be more unsettling than Trump 1.0. He's talked about dismantling the deep state. He's talked about slapping high tariffs on China. He may do more to dismantle the order that the United States, its allies in Europe and Asia, have built together. Moreover, I think many Americans, myself included, are worried about the future of American democracy. I mean, let's be honest. Trump is a convicted felon who attempted to overturn the 2020 election. What he could do to American democracy if he comes back to the Oval Office, nobody knows, but it's very worrying. I think that's one of the reasons so many people are now rallying very, very quickly behind Kamala Harris.
All right, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there, rather. That was Charles Kupchan, a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for your analysis.